EA recently announced Crysis 3. It's the latest game in Crytek's really good-looking first-person shooter series. They had an event and they've released a trailer to the public, but I was able to sit in on a private demo about 5 or 6 minutes and see a little bit more about the game. It's still set in the same storyline, the same world. There's an alien invasion. The alien forces are known as the Ceph. There's a kind of a shady organization known as Cell who may or may not have humanity's best interests at heart. They're really interested in alien technology. And the player is actually Prophet, who is it's an established character in the series. And Crysis 2, he appeared to have shot himself in the head. So whatever happened in between now and then, he's back. He's the main character, and he's kind of a rogue operator going into these nanodomes, which have been constructed around major cities. So he's going into the New York nanodome to basically eliminate the alien opposition. Really kind of video game logic setup where they have built giant domes around cities in order to hyper-accelerate plant growth, in order to filter out the pollution caused by spores emitted by the Ceph or something like that. It's a little bit overwrought and a little bit improbable, but basically Crytek is using this to create really cool-looking environments. They call it urban rainforest, so you have ruined buildings, a lot of greenery, a lot of cover, you have swamps. They're going for a wide variety of environments, and of course, it's all in the service of making cool environments for the type of gameplay they're pursuing. So inside these nanodomes are a lot of hostile forces and a lot of really big, heavy weapons. Where I thought that Crysis 2, the weapon set seemed a little bit reserved, where you have this nano suit with all these high-tech powers, incredible strength, invisibility, speed, and then you're kind of shooting, regular assault rifles or sniper rifles, light machine guns. Here, they're focusing on the arsenal a little more. They have a hunter theme going for the main character, so he carries a kind of a tech bow, and it can fire various warheads. There's a typical stealth warhead that can just kind of be fired while you're cloaked. You can sneak around, take people out, maybe a little bit reminiscent of Turok. They have a long-range kill cam if you make a particularly good shot. But you can also put different warheads on your arrows. So there are explosive warheads, which really, people will know you're there if you set off an explosive warheads. They had electrical ones, which I think could probably be used to, short out equipment or electrify water. They didn't show that. They have other new weapons too. They wanted to focus on a kind of a Typhoon assault weapon, which is really insane rate of fire. It has a really hellacious sound when we fire it up, and then it just kicks out tons of rounds into whatever you're aiming at. Prophet's also able to use alien weaponry because there's some kind of technological integration going on with his suit, so he's able to interface with this weaponry you weren't previously able to use, and they had really destructive stuff like a rapid-fire plasma grenade launcher that could also shoot plasmic rockets, and it was just incredibly powerful. But that's kind of a negative or a balancing factor for those weapons is once they're out of ammo, you can't refill it. You aren't able to do that. You pretty much have to discard it and pick it up, so pick up a new weapon. So it's kind of like acts as a temporary power-up. The suit powers are still back, largely able to do the same things you were able to do in the past games. You can cloak, be sneaky, whip out your bow. You can punch a guy and send him flying off a cliff. You can do superpowered jumps. The one new suit power that they talked about that they've added is a hacking ability. And it seems pretty simple. It's not involved in that you have to do a mini game or anything. So what the instance that they showed was you're highlighting a turret, and you basically held down a button, you hacked it, the turret started firing on the enemies, turning on its masters, and the guy was able to sprint through the environment and just kind of create a distraction. So that's one new suit power they're adding. In terms of the overall gameplay, they're focused on, it's just really big weapons, the very realistic environments. They did show some destruction I think it was along the lines of what we saw in Crysis 2. The build I saw was running on PC, and it's CryEngine 3 with some improvements. Specific elements they called out include lens flare. They said they're bringing ambient life back, which I think there was some of in Crysis 1. So in Crysis 3 in the trailer, you can actually see little frogs swimming around. Yeah, the environments look really, again, it's really realistic looking. And I think it is a small step up from Crysis 3 at least. It seems like they're still going for adaptive sandbox gameplay, or at least that's what they call it. They have, a number of acronyms, and like the AAA experience, which is assess, adapt, and attack, maybe. I might have gotten one of those A's wrong, but basically they're, these guys totally know what they're doing in regard to shooters. It looks like they still want to kind of have an open approach, whereas Crysis 2 did feel a little bit controlled compared to the kind of open, wide-ranging Crysis 1. The demo we saw was kind of like Crysis 2 in that it seemed heavily tied to the dialogue. The guy seemed to have a specific objective, and he didn't really seem to go off on any tangents in the environments. Of course, that is a demo, so it remains to be seen what exactly the overall flavor of gameplay will be.
There is one thing left to do.
So far, it was a kind of a narrow slice of the game we saw, only a 5 to 6 minute demo. It took place in one area, which is a swamp. There was, really cool looking water, really cool looking stuff. They want to have a lot of variety in the environments, and I would expect that we'll see more video of this soon. These guys are aiming really high in terms of the technical presentation, and I'm sure they're going to want to show it off in the near future.